The treatment of lexical gaps in IsiZulu to English dictionaries. In this paper we present a few aspects of and further work on surrogate equivalent relations by Prinsloo and Zondi 2020 as indicated in the list of references. Three equivalent relations need to be considered. In the case of full equivalence, a translation equivalent with exactly the same meaning is available. Thus, a one-to-one relation between source language lemma and translation equivalent in the target language. Partial equivalence. No one-to-one relation exists. Target language item may be polysemous. Surrogate equivalence. If it is not possible for lexicographers to find translation equivalence, i.e. a situation of zero equivalence, they have to revert to surrogate equivalence, e.g. paraphrases of meaning, to make up for the lack of full or partial equivalence. The main question now is whether translation equivalents for each lemma in the source language are available in the target language. In an ideal world, the compiler of a bilingual dictionary could expect that suitable translation equivalents for each lemma in the source language should be available in the target language. But there is a degree of incompatibility. The question is, to what extent? Adam Salasiak says that zero equivalence is relatively rare. There are two types of lexical gaps, namely A. Linguistic gaps resulting from linguistic factors, and B. Referential gaps caused by linguistic external factors. A linguistic gap occurs when the concept is known in both the source and target languages, but the target language does not have a specific word for it. A referential gap occurs when a source language concept is unknown in the target language. The strategies employed in the case of zero equivalence include the use of glosses, paraphrase of meaning, pictures and illustrations, and information boxes. There are a number of strategies that the lexicographer can use when dealing with instances of zero equivalence, e.g., the use of glosses, paraphrases, illustrations, and even text boxes with lexicographic comments. In the English to IsiZulu side of the dictionary, surrogate equivalence accounted for 60.8%, and in the IsiZulu to English side, 64.3% of all equivalents used. The extent to which zero equivalence occurs is thus much higher for this language pair than expected in general literature for both lexical and referential gaps. A comparison between the IsiZulu to English and the English to IsiZulu sides furthermore indicates that the use of translation equivalence as the only strategy is slightly higher in the English to IsiZulu side than in the IsiZulu to English side. The provision of both translation equivalence and surrogate equivalence is 30% higher in the English to IsiZulu side than in the IsiZulu to English side. However, instances where the compilers had surrogate equivalence as the only option for treatment were much more frequent in the IsiZulu to English side than in the English to IsiZulu side of the dictionary. This implies that more surrogate equivalents had to be found in English for treating IsiZulu lemmas than for IsiZulu lemmas in the treatment of English lemmas.
Consider the treatment of misdirection, misfire, and misdoubt. For misdirection, only a surrogate equivalent is offered, marked in yellow. For misfire, a translation equivalent marked in green, as well as a surrogate equivalent is given. And for misdoubt, only 2 translation equivalents are given. For lamula in 1 and 2, a surrogate and translation equivalent are given. For lalisa in sense 3, translation as well as surrogate equivalents are given. And for umlandi, 2 translation equivalents. The lexicographer often needs to formulate a surrogate in great detail in order to sufficiently guide the user. So, for example, in the case of utikoloshe, a lengthy treatment in the form of a surrogate equivalent is given in the central text, supplemented by further elaboration in the back matter of the dictionary. Lexicographers should, however, not uncritically include surrogate equivalents in their dictionaries. Firstly, they should not overlook suitable translation equivalents simply because they might be polysemous or homonymous, but rather use such equivalents with indication of the applicable sense in order to avoid ambiguities. Consider the entry for misinform. Although a translation equivalent, dugisa, exists, the lexicographer also added the surrogate equivalent, tshela okungeyilo iqiniso, tell, inform, as to what is not the truth, that is, a fact. EID offers the following translation equivalents for duga, from which the causative form dugisa in the entry for misinform above is derived. Go astray, live the right way, get off the patch, be wrong as in argument, take the wrong course in word, act, or thought. The final equivalent given above is in line with the surrogate equivalent, tshela okungeyilo iqiniso, tell untruth. So the question could be asked whether the compiler used the surrogate equivalent also to disambiguate the translation equivalent paradigm of dugisa. It is recommended that a user study should be undertaken as future work for different target users in order to determine user preferences in this regard.